Here we are. It is June 28th, 2024, and this is the weekly video. We do these every Friday. We talk about the Asian art market, the Chinese art, Japanese art, whatever's coming along that's sort of interesting. And if you're new here, welcome. And if you're a regular, thank you for coming back. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we noticed we have a lot of returning visitors, people that come every week, and they don't bother subscribing. And I would appreciate if you'd subscribe because it actually helps our channel get more visibility on YouTube increasingly. They've changed a bit in how they do their algorithm, I guess, and they've been telling creators to get regular viewers to sign up so they get a better indication of your traffic and so forth. So if you'd be willing to do that, I'd appreciate it. And there's a lot going on in the last week, though we're heading into summer. It's going to get a bit quiet as it always does in June and July and August. A lot of Europe goes on vacation, as we all know. The auction houses in America tend to be a little quiet. The major auction houses don't have any big sales really in July and August as far as Chinese art goes. They sell other ththings, handbags and sneakers, I guess, and wristwatches. But during the summer, it's sort of a quiet time around the big auction firms. It's the way it's always been. But there's still some things going on. We're going to talk about some good results, some bargains, and what's been happening. Those of you that use the Patreon page will notice we put up quite a bit of stuff this week. One of them was an interesting article that was in the Antiques Gazette, and it's sort of a fun story. It's because every once in a while this happens. Seems to happen in Europe more than it happens here. But a pair of Daoguan bowls that were forgotten and left in an attic ended up selling for $160,000. 162,000 pounds rather, which is even more. And there's a good article and story about it, about the guy that had it in his attic with a bunch of Christmas ornaments. And we also posted the part one on Qing Dynasty understanding foot rims. And we added another video this week that I thought many of you know we do a weekly video on the Patreon page just for the subscribers. And it's usually fairly short, 5 or 10 minutes. And we did one this week on some glass that's around our house. And one of them is this who-formed glass vase here. And there's sort of an interesting story about it and how why it's in our family's collection and so forth. It's a very rare piece of glass. And all that, and some blogs were posted this week on and PDF files rather. We uploaded books on Chinese paintings, and this is one on China trade paintings of the 19th century. We actually found two of them, sort of by the same guy, but did at different times. It's an interesting story. It's by Barry Till. Those of you that follow China trade scholarship will know who he is. He's done a lot of writing over the years, so there's some interesting stuff that's popped up there. Now, on to, let's see. So if you want to join us on Patreon, just go down below here. There's a link to it. You come over. It's $5 a month, and it's how we pay for the channel and the equipment and the cameras and the software and websites and all that business. All right. What sold this week? These did. And this is a pair of Famille Rose ginger jars. And the reason I'm showing you, these were at the Leland Little sale. I thought this was a very, very good buy, a very reasonable buy, actually. A pair of these late 19th century, 1860 to 1890 melon-formed jars, ginger jars, as sometimes they referred to. They're mirrored pair, which is rather nice. In other words, the figures are, when the jars are placed side by side, the figures, the primary figures are facing one another. And here you have it, as opposed to exact pairs where the figures are both going in the same direction. Mirror pairs are always very desirable. And these slipped through for $425, which is very reasonable. In the past, we've seen single jars of this sell for that amount. So I think a lot of it's the time of the year. I've noticed an overall softening in prices starting about a month ago, and prices seem to be getting pretty friendly here as we head into summer, which is not unusual. It's the same dynamic you see if there's a good auction between Thanksgiving and Christmas. The closer to Christmas the auction goes, the worse it does. It's just the way it is. All right, and other things some of the things that are coming up I wanted to talk about too is there's some other results. We're going to get to them. But I just wanted to mention those jars because it seems to be sort of a bellwether thing. Here you have this very nice Wanley bowl. This is coming up at Oak Ridge. And Oak Ridge has got an auction coming up on the on July 25th, in about 4 weeks. A lot of the stuff they have on offer, I got to say, are reproductions. They have a lot of reproductions in this sale. I think they're cleaning out their cupboards. But they do have this. This is a rather nice 1600s, early 1600s Wanli bowl. They're calling it, it's got a label on it that says it's transitional, and it could be. But it's either Wanli or transitional, one or the other. But it's a perfectly nice bowl, well-known pattern. It's a pattern that was seen in the Ming Dynasty. Here it is, and it's got a very modest estimate, $100 to $200. It measures how wide is this thing? 5 inches in diameter, so it's decent size. Estimated at just $100 to $200. It should bring more than that. It should bring $300 or $400. But if you're a Ming bowl buyer, that's not a bad piece. And also this, two Ming jars that are rather nice. The biggest one is a little under, just a hair under 7 inches in height. Very nicely done. I don't see anything wrong with them. The one on the right looks to be probably a bit older, maybe 14th or 15th century probably. But at any rate, the two of them have $100 to $200 estimate. And everything in Oak Ridge is, they tend to put, they focus on letting the buyers tell them what the stuff is worth. $100 starting price. They're dating them as just 15th and 16th century, which is about right. You can't get much more precise than that. And what are they worth? The one on the left, the bigger of the two jars, is probably worth somewhere in the $400 to $500, $600 range, and the one on the right is probably worth around $300 to $400. So it's a $700 to $900, $1,000 lot, I would think. Could go a little over because the figures on this one are in pretty good shape. The bottoms of the jars look absolutely fine. We're talking about bottoms. We're going to do a video, by the way, on the bottoms and foot rims of things. These are two perfectly good-looking bottoms. This one rather peculiarly has an export seal mark on it. And often you only see those on pieces that are not considered to be antique or especially of any interest. But there was a period when when a number of years ago, where a little shenanigans in you could sometimes convince somebody in the local government to give you a wax seal for some legitimate antiques, some Chinese art, old art, Ming art, and so forth. And it's been known to happen. And this looks like this jar was one of the recipients, because this is the Ming jar. And under typical laws, you'd never be allowed to take this out of China. But somebody did, and they got a wax seal on it. So good. I've seen it happen before. I've seen it in collections before. I saw one collection a number of years ago that had a bunch of very good Chinese things in it, Yongchen period, Qinlong Marken period things. And they'd all been brought out with red seals on them. And every one of them was authentic. So that doesn't happen anymore. This was a collection that was gathered back in the early 80s, when things were not quite as tight as they are now. So, and laws and treaties have been put into place since then that cut down on that. But at any rate, this one still has its wax seal, which I find rather interesting. I'd leave it on there because it's a fascinating bit of Chinese export history. They should do fairly well. They're pretty nice looking jars. And then over to this. This is coming up at Millet Brothers. Millet Brothers is a very good little auction house. They're down in Boonton, New Jersey. I've talked about them before. It's a couple of brothers. They do a good job. They get very interesting things. I think they get some overflow and things from the major auction houses, or there's some relationship there, because I've seen a few things pop up that make me wonder where that came from over the years. But they do a good job. They're honest guys. They work hard, and they've got this. This is a very nice looking late 18th or early 19th century brush pot with a silver rim applied to it, which I think is rather interesting. It may have gotten bumped and have a little bit of damage, and it may not. It may have just been added. But this is a good looking little brush pot. There's the bottom of it. That's exactly what it should look like. Very nicely done. Modest estimate, $200 to $300. It ought to bring $600 to $700. And this sale is on July 16th. All right. And then over to this. This is also at Millet Brothers. They had originally put this up as a Chinese thing. I actually dropped them a note because they sort of know about me. And I said, you know, those are actually Japanese figures. They do better if you advertise them as Japanese. They had no watchers. And they now have 10 watchers. So the sale is coming up on the 17th of July. This is a nice looking grouping. The whole thing figures including the figures and the stand. It probably stands about 16 inches tall. It's fairly good size. The tallest figure, which is I think is either this one or that one. I can't really tell from the pictures. Is 9 inches in height. So if you take that, that looks like about 6 inches or so. So this whole thing stands about 16 inches tall. It's a nice presentation. They appear to be from the Edo period. I agree with their dating on it. Probably made around 1800 or so. Nice looking setup. Again, should bring more than the $200 to $300 estimate. Very, if you're a Japanese collector, and these would clean up with the Q-tip, go over them a little bit. They look pretty dusty, but nice things. And then hopping along over to this, the pages have to load. There we go. It's a nice Chinese watercolor of butterflies. And the reason I pointed it out was that there was a period in the late 19th century when the Chinese were putting butterflies on a lot of those famous Guangzhou vases, sort of reminiscent of the butterfly vases that were done during the Qianlong period. And there's a fascination with butterflies and how they appear, different types of butterflies, how the colors are, and so forth. And the Chinese are very good at painting butterflies. And this is a very charming little picture. They don't offer a lot of information on it. They just say it's Chinese school, 19th century, which it is. It's a gouache. Measures 8 by 10 inches and 13 by 15 inches with the mat. Apparently it's matted. But the estimate is peanuts, $70 to $100. This is a nice little picture. It would be absolutely charming, put it in a good frame. It seems to be imminently buyable. It should be worth $400 or $500. But they've given it a very modest estimate. I think it's, if you like Chinese paintings and sort of elegant, quiet, subtle things, this is it. This is a wonderful little picture. I like it a great deal. I love the composition and how all the smaller butterflies are sort of circling around the larger descending butterfly in the middle. It's absolutely beautiful. And you want to check that out. It's on Liveauctioneers. All this stuff is on the Global and Patreon pages for the subscribers there already. And then over to this. This was something I heard about. Somebody emailed me yesterday to remind me that this sale is coming up. This is an online sale. It's in Hong Kong. And don't let the fact that it's in Hong Kong scare you too much, because all the pieces in here that I think are pretty interesting are fairly small. So thankfully for that. So the shipping costs wouldn't be too much, actually, out of there to here. And if you're interested in scholars objects, you want to check it out. There's some nice pieces in there. I'm going to go through just a few of them. There's quite a few good looking things in here, and there are pages of lots here. There's 5 pages and so forth. There's also a lot of jades and whatnot. But there's some nice scholars objects, and we're going to take a look at them. But before I do, those of you that are interested in Chinese furniture, somebody has sort of consigned the motherlode of books on references on Chinese furniture to the sale. They got the Yip collection here. You've got the Friends of the House collection, which is the famous Fidelity collection that was on loan to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. They did an exhibition there. But this is the one on vernacular furniture that was on loan to the PBD Essex Museum, and there's some great looking pieces in here. The intro and most of the book was edited and written by Nancy Berliner. There's a whole bunch of them. Pure Form is another one. The Chinese classical Huanhua Li furniture book. There's a whole bunch of them in here. So if you've been looking for an instant library of Chinese reference books on Ming and early Qing furniture, this is it. It's estimated. It's got 8 bids already. It's up to $487 US. It should be worth $3,000 or $4,000. This is a good lot of books, and I suspect you can get them shipped book rate from Hong Kong as well. If you're in Hong Kong, you're off the hook. You just go pick them up. And then there's this. This is a very nice little Zitan lobed incense tool vase. Ming Dynasty. It measures 4.5 inches tall, but it's wonderful quality, and I like the color. I love the color of the wood. This is Zitan, of course, so it's got that brownish purple tone to it, but it's beautifully carved. It looks like it's in wonderful condition. So we'll see how that does. It's estimated at 60 to 80,000 Hong Kong, or that works out to about what, 5 to 6 times 8, 7. $7,000 to $10,000, somewhere in there. The starting price on it is 30,000 Hong Kong or $3,800, but it's a nice looking thing. And you don't see tool holders very often, so if you're a scholar collector, you might want to jump on that. And then you have this, a nice square Huanhua Li brush pot. Very almost art moderne looking, but this is old. It dates probably to the early 19th century. Nicely done. I like the little pinched corner on it, but an unusual form. An unusual form brush pots are of great interest. It's 5 inches in height and is estimated at 20 to 25,000 Hong Kong, or I don't know what that works out to, $2,000 or $3,000, I guess, U.S., somewhere around in there. Yeah, 2,000 or 3,000. Nice looking thing. It's a good looking little brush pot. And then the tray, a Zetan tray. It's got some side reticulation on here. It's been carved out, brass ends. This looks like an 18th century one to me. They're calling it 18th or 19th century. There you go. It looks 18th century to me. Estimated at 8 to 12,000 Hong Kong, which is very, very reasonable. That comes out to, you know, 1,000 to $1,500 or so for this tray. It's a nice looking tray. And it should bring more than that. It should bring more than that. And also the brush. You don't see these porcelain brushes very often, but here is one. So if you've got scholar's objects, if you're looking for finally to get a real brush, here it is. Late 18th, early 19th century porcelain handle. The brush looks original to it. It looks like it's a nice condition all the way around. And you don't see these very often. They do not turn up very often. If you think back, when was the last time we talked about you know, these kinds of brushes for the scholar's table? They just don't turn up. It's got a few bidders watching it already. It's estimated at $15,000 to $20,000 US, so it's somewhere in the $1,500 to $2,500 range, which I think is reasonable because it's an interesting thing, and they are rare. They don't turn up, and it has a Wanli 6-character mark on it, but it was made later. All right, and then hopping along over to this was something that sold. I wanted to mention this. This was up at the MBA auction, I think it was. Yeah, MBA Seattle had a very low estimate on it. I had a bunch of inquiries about it. People wanted to know if you know what it would sell for. And we had one not too dissimilar from this. We've had a few of them over the years, but the last one we had a couple of years ago, we got about $12,500 for it. As I recall. And this one is very, very, very similar. Ours was a little more salmon-y in color than this, but very similar otherwise. Nicely done. And it ended up doing quite well. It sold for $11,000 plus premium. So that, with the buyer's premium of 25%, puts it up at about $14,000. So that's the price range. That was sort of what we told everybody. Expect it to bring. I think we said expect it to bring somewhere between $10,000 to $14,000, $15,000 on the higher end of that. Probably, and there it is. But these always do well. These rondelle robes always do very well. All right, and then hopping along over to this is the Freeman sale result. They had a good sale, and the prices were a little bit soft though. I think on some things. This did very well. This little lobed double gourd vase with 3 necks on it. Because it was unusual, and it had the ribbon tying around it, and the porcelain ribbon and so forth. Late 18th, early 19th century on this. The details are good. It's a very sweet little thing, and you don't see, this is a fairly rare form. There's the bottom of it. That's what it should look like. And it ended up selling for $12,000 plus the premium, and the premium there is around 30%, so add on another 36, about $15,000 for the vase. It wasn't terribly big. This is a fairly small vase. It's 10.5 inches in height. It's not huge either, but it's not tiny, it's not huge. It's sort of right in the middle, but good looking, nice colors and unusual. It's nice to see unusual things do well. Now, these were those boxes. There were 2 of them. I think I've got them both. No, I didn't bother putting them both up. They both brought about the same. These were the ones that had been through Chait Galleries, I believe, in New York. I want to make sure I get the sticker right on this. Hold on. Wasn't it Ralph Chait? Yeah, Ralph Chait Gallery. These are wonderful. These are little lacquer boxes made during the later part of the 18th century, end of the Qianlong, early Caijing period, but nicely done, beautifully carved, wonderful form, pretty rare. And I think these were a very good buy. $2,700 plus premium. If these had sold for $6,000 or $7,000, I would have been at least a bit surprised. And again, I think it's seasonal. I think that maybe they were worth more. It was just the people are going away. The sale was on June 21st. Everybody's getting packed up and heading off to their 4th of Julys. They are on the East Coast. I know that. And then onto this. This was also a very good buy. A pair of these Marco Polo covered sensors from Dewa. Now, maybe they had restoration or repairs to them. I never heard definitively. If any of you found out, if any of you asked for a condition report on these, let me know if these were repaired or something. Because the price on these are incredibly low. incredibly low, I think. They ended up selling for about $4,000 and change with the premium. And $2,000 a piece for these are very rare type. They do not turn up very often. So I was a bit surprised by that. They were estimated at $5,000 to $7,000, which I didn't think was unreasonable. We had found a comparable that had sold some not that long ago that sold for $4,000 or $5,000, $3,000 or $4,000. So I thought this estimate was perfectly reasonable, but it went on the low side. So if one of you got it, bravo, good buy on it. All right. And then hopping along over to this. This was also at the Leland Little sale. And I kind of wanted to talk about this a few weeks ago, and I completely slipped my mind with things that were going on around here. At a glance, this looks like Kutani ware. And this is what makes it so interesting. This is a Chinese example done in very much in the Kutani style during the 19th century. Very finely done, all the little lines in it. It's a big oblong platter. And when I saw it, originally, when I saw the original listing for it and it said Chinese, I went, it can't be. And then you looked at it closely and you look at the back. That's the back of a Chinese platter. There's no doubt about it. It's wonderfully done. So this way, the design went the other way. The design came over from Japan to China. And here's a gilded figure in the side that you could easily miss. They added little extra elements that you didn't typically see on these. There's another figure here in between. I think, is there one in each? Yeah, there's one in each quadrant all the way around it. And it has that wonderful red that you see on Japanese amari. And this one they think was probably made for the Persian or maybe the Indian market based on the style of the plate. And somebody bought it very reasonably, $400. $400, a nice looking plate. This was probably made during the early to mid 19th century. Wonderful quality and pretty good size, 17¼ inches in diameter. So somebody got a great buy because all in it ended up being around $500, which I think is pretty great. And then there was this. Now, one of these plates has a repair to it, and the whole lot sold for $100 for the lot because the big charger had a repair. I think the plate also has a repair to it. But that's a very unusual pattern on these with the scholar's object. I love the little sort of root stand in the middle with Lingbai and all this. Very unusual, and it's an 18th century plate. The plate on the right is 19th century, and there's the plate, and you can see the break. The break ran down, snaked around here, and went out, and I don't think it got all the way through. I think, well, it might have. I can't tell. But it doesn't matter. This is an interesting piece of porcelain. It was 14 inches in diameter. Oh, the other one had a staple repair. So they both had repairs. But this big charger on the top was 14 inches in diameter. That's a nice big plate. And it would look beautiful hanging on a wall. And it would be interesting because it's an unusual sort of pattern. But it didn't, but for $100. So somebody for $130 all in got two nice antique pieces of porcelain. The saucer on the right is later, obviously. This was probably made about 1830 or 40 or 50, somewhere in there. But interesting pattern. It's sort of a street scene with people out wearing beautiful robes. It's one of those. It's one of those idealized versions of Chinese culture and life. People wearing beautiful robes with fans, beautiful women standing around talking and chatting and so forth. Man coming out waving another fan over his head. Had a little wear to it, but it was an interesting scene, and it had no border. So I've said it many times. I love it when they use the whole face of the plate like a canvas to put the image on. And there's the back of it with the zipper going across it for the repair. But no harm in buying those. That's a nice, interesting lot. All right, and then over to this. This was a good buy. It was a piece of crack wire. It was 8 inches in diameter. Nice piece of Wanli porcelain with an ascending bird landing on a rui head or a fungi, and then the divided borders going all the way around it like you typically see. It looked like it was in very good condition. It was originally sold by Robert McPherson over when he was in London. Great dealer. If you ever see his name on things of good things, don't be surprised. He sells a lot of nice things, and he's still selling. He's still selling in Europe, but he gets good things. And he sold this years ago for 160 pounds was the price on it. That looks like an older sticker. That looks like a sticker from about 25 years ago. This time around, it sold for 300 pounds plus the premium. Perfectly reasonable. Like the back of it. I like the scrolling vine around the back of it and so forth. Very, very attractive, and that very mingy looking foot rim. Oh, speaking of foot rims, as you know, we did the updated version the other day on the examining porcelains and how to look at foot rims. And the first one is just on modern foot rims, because you really need to know what they look like. So you need to know what you don't want to see. And that's what that's about. And then we're doing another one on Qing porcelains, and then we'll do one on Ming. And I know we're doing at least 2 more on that subject, about an hour long each, and we may do more. If we really get into the weeds on it, and I hope you don't mind if we do some extra. But it's an important topic because it really can help you knowing what to look for on the bottom of a piece of porcelain, and then looking at the enameling and decoration, and do the curtains match the drapes? In other words, does the foot rim look okay, but the decoration doesn't? Because they always make a mistake. They nearly always make a mistake. And there are certain things you want to look for. So I want to try to give it a bit more detail than I did 6 or 7 years ago. I did the first one. I was first learning how to use YouTube. All right, now over to the Bonhams sale that took place. Let's take a look here. This one, this was the Americana sale that Bonhams in Boston at Skinner's. They bought Skinner's, as you know, and during the late spring they have an Americana sale. And a couple of things were interesting. American folk art did pretty well in this sale, which isn't in our wheelhouse, but many years ago when I ran an auction house, we used to handle quite a bit of good American folk art. Fire buckets and all this. There was some strong interest. Few pieces of furniture did pretty well, and so forth. And in this lot here of Americana, of course, they had some Chinese export wares, and they had featured a number of very nice pieces of armorial export wares. Boston's a pretty good market for armorial wares, as many of you know. You remember from the Grogan sale. Some friends of mine who were collectors had both passed away and auctioned it off, and the stuff did fantastically well. I'm not surprised that this did pretty well as also. But some of the lots didn't sell. And I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe condition reports. It may be time of year. It may be repairs. I don't know, because they don't post all their condition reports all the time. But there are a number of these pieces that didn't sell, like this shaped rim scallop sort of shaped bowl, Arms of Wilson, estimated only $300 to $500. Didn't find a buyer. So if you're a armorial collector, it's 10 and 5/8 inches in diameter. This isn't a saucer. It's a pretty good sized plate. You may want to reach out to them and say, these pieces that didn't sell, are they available, and try to work out a deal for yourself. There's that one. And then there's this one. This was another nice English market armorial bowl, Arms of Baker, Chomley, and Bateman. It didn't sell. Who knows why? It could be a repair or something. But again, $700 to $900 estimate. You might want to look into it. And then there was this, though. Now this thing was busted to pieces. This thing had hit everything but the lottery. All right. Why on earth did it sell for $5,120, including premium? It's a very simple style of punch bowl. These bowls normally in perfect condition with the swags and the sort of federal period decoration on it. How big was the bowl? Because this is a very interesting lesson in value. It's 15 inches in diameter. It's not particularly big. It's sort of the standard size punch bowl from around 1800. So why did it sell for $5,000 when they normally sell in perfect condition typically for $600 to $800? All right, and I'm going to show you the damage on this thing because it's got a lot of damage. There's the damage. This thing has got a ton of damage to it. It was broken into about 8 pieces. Look at the rim, just shattered all the way around, and up in here. And you can see the glaze repair here, big fractures and all this. So why did it bring so much? For that reason, right there. American flag. Chinese export pieces that have American flags on them are worth much more than Chinese export pieces that have French or English flags on them, because America sort of came into it later, and there are not as many of them. America was also, they're very emblematic of the beginning of the American economy, and they are a hot topic of pursuit among the China trade and American history buffs. And this bowl, had a British flag on it, would have sold for $100 maybe $150. And it's got that nice little American flag on the back of it, and you're off to the races. So it's something to know. And it's the same goes for China trade paintings. If you're looking at a Hong painting and there are a whole bunch of ships in there, always look for one that might have an American flag on it, because if the American ships are in port in Canton, at the Hongs, they bring a premium. It's just the reality of the market. So it's a good thing to know. Put that in your back pocket. All right, now over to this. But here's an armorial plate. It's a very good one. Arms of oak over impaling nickel, beautifully done. This sold for over about $8,000. Spectacularly well done. Spectacular piece of porcelain. There it is with a mug. Or the teapot rather, but the colors are good. It's in very nice condition. There is a little bit of wear to the grisaille decoration in the middle, but not bad. And it ended up, and this plate is quite rare. And it was made around the very beginning of the Qianlong period. A lot of these, the fine, really great armorial pieces were made sort of around 1740 to 1755, or a little before that. This ended up selling for $8,960 all in with the premium. Very nice thing. All right, so that was it. So, but if you're interested in buying buy-ins, check out the Skinner sale on Bonhams. Get a hold of them. If you see something you like that didn't sell, as always, get a hold of them. Say, look, let's make a deal. Let's sell it. They don't want to re-offer it. I can tell you that. So something to know. Now, there was another sale that took place, the online sale, and this was Bonhams ended online on the 26th, 2 days ago. It finished up, and overall the results were pretty good. But there were also some very good buys. It was a very, very mixed result auction, and I'm not quite sure what the heck is going on. But I'll take a look and show you what I mean. The pair of the two Junyao bowls. Now, we had a lot of inquiries about these. A number of people, I think I had 5 inquiries on these two bowls because the one on the left was very, very nice, and the one on the right is nice. They're both the Yuan Dynasty. And the estimate was very low. The estimate was only $1,500 to $2,000, and people were wondering why. And they wanted to sell it. They probably didn't have any reserves on them. These were sold out in Los Angeles, and they have every once in a while they have to sit down and just start selling the stuff. Tell consigners, time to clean out the closets. Let's go. And this bowl was the one on the left I liked in particular. I love the color of it, and I like the red splash in the middle. It looks like it was beautifully done. They didn't show a picture of the inside of the bowl, which I kind of wish they had. And the example on the right, this low-sided bowl with a high foot, it didn't have any red in it. It was just solid blue as far as I could tell, but the color was very appealing. This blue is particularly, I think, appealing visually, and it looks great with the red. We had sort of estimated that the estimate would be dust blown away because the bowl on the left should bring all by itself somewhere between $1,800 and $2,800, $2,000 to $2,500, somewhere around there anyway. And the one on the right should bring another $1,500 or so. So by the time you're done, you're up around $4,000 all in and done. And that's pretty much the advice we were telling people. So if one of you got it, let me know. We'll find out where it ended up. And then there was this. This was a very, very nice copper red glazed vase, Meiping. Had a fairly modest, reasonable estimate, as I recall, but it was beautiful and it really took off. But the glaze on this was exceedingly even. I really liked this vase. Love the way the lip is done on it and the evenness of the glaze all the way down. Beautifully done. And it was not a terribly big one either. It was like 9.5 inches tall. Ended up selling for $19,200. So the monochrome market remains pretty strong. And then there was this one that was also 18th century, 8.25 inches high, and it didn't do quite as well. Now I didn't see any other shots of this. I liked this one a great deal too. It had a very nicely done base. The foot looks good on it, and so forth. And the color of the red was very, very good. And this one did well, but it didn't do anywhere near as well as the other one. This one brought $4,352. Now, it may have had a condition issue or something. I don't know why it didn't do quite as well as I thought it would have. But again, nice looking vase and brought a decent price. And then last was this. This was kind of a shock to me because we've seen these vases before, this type of vases. And they always seem to bring, 15 to 20, 25,000 each. And this time around, the pair of them with the ormolu mounts It didn't get anywhere near to that. They ended up, well, not far off, but I thought they would have brought maybe 50 to 60,000 somewhere in there. They ended up selling for 38,000, which is the very top of the estimate. Now they may have had repairs. I don't know. I didn't see the condition report on them, but these looked like a very good buy for people that are shopping in this price range. Not everybody is. I mean, it's $40,000 for a couple of vases. It's a lot of money. No matter what, no matter who you are. Any rate, but I thought these were particularly beautiful, and I think they were extremely wise buy because they're so attractive. Nice Kangxi period work. The mounts were added in the 19th century, they're saying, and the lacquer stands were probably early 19th century. That's what I meant to mention. They included the stands. Nice looking tables. And I would think the tables would be worth 2,000 or 3,000. So anyway, somebody got a good package, a good buy, but you got to get them shipped from LA. So it's going to cost you a few $1,000s there. All right, now hopping along over to last week's newsletter, go through a few results here. There was this nice Kangxi revival style vase. I had commented on this last week because I thought it was a very, very pretty vase. And I guess the seller is a viewer because I mentioned that he didn't put the height in, and here he mentions I saw Peter's video, and for some dumb reason I didn't put in the dimensions. So the jar is 16 inches tall. There you go. So I don't know who Antique Collector 9 is. He's got 381 feedbacks, 100% positive. Anyway, it sold for $685, which is a very reasonable price for a pot from this period. Sometimes they bring more, sometimes they bring a little less. Had its original lid, and it was good size. But this was a nice looking thing. I liked in particular the swag going around it, connected to the lotus vines rather. They look like swags the way they're executed, connecting, going around it, and tying onto the flowers. Thought it was very interesting. $685. And then over to let the page load. There we go. This one. Now this one here is one that's sort of similar to the one that was at the Leland sale that was broken. The feeling of the composition that was and it was in perfect condition. 18th century. I don't think this was as big though. I think this was a 9-inch, 25 centimeters. So it's a about a 9-inch dish instead of a 14. All right, and here it is. This is in perfect condition. And it ended up selling for $627. So that's what I was saying. If you see something that's really, really interesting and big and sort of unusual, and even though it's got maybe a repair to it, if you're really a collector, condition is the second thing you should think about. If investment is more important to you than collecting things that are really amazing, then by all means, just buy the perfect pieces that are maybe not all that interesting, but they're perfect. But if you're interested in building a very interesting and diverse collection, never be afraid of buying a piece that's been maybe had a little bit of damage because you pick it up at a heavy discount and you've gotten something unusual, especially these things that you don't see very often. There are certain things that turn up in the market and you see one every 5 or 10 years and that's it and it's gone. So if one of those turns up or something interesting turns up, be a little brave if you're truly collecting and buy that piece that, sort of an orphan because it'll please you for years to come because of its design. Perfect things because they're perfect, never please me in particular. I'd rather have something interesting to look at. All right, and this was the bargain of the month. I don't know what happened, why this sold for so little money, $316. 18th century, he dated it to Yongchen, either Yongchen or a little after Yongchen to Qianlong. Punch bowl. One, again, you see one of these guys didn't do the dimensions? 28 centimeters, there you go. It measured around about 10 or 11 inches in diameter, but it has this high relief work on here. You don't see this very often on punch bowls from the 18th century. Very nicely done. Love the decoration, the cash symbol sign on the side and so forth. It may have had a little repair to it. I don't know. I don't see anything. There may be a repair on the inside of that foot, but I don't care. The exterior decoration on this with this relief work, it's the kind of thing you see on old Blanc de Chine pieces. It almost looks like Blanc de Chine, actually, with colored enamels added to it. And it only went for $316. That was a really, really good buy. I've seen bowls like this in the past sell for $1,500 to $2,500. So this was a great buy for someone who is willing to buy something interesting. That's unusual and interesting. Never be afraid of it. All right, and then hopping along to this, there was the Daniel Rapp porcelain dish that was made available. This was from a seller in New York. And as I mentioned, Daniel Rapp, when he was alive, he was a famous guy in Amsterdam. He was also, he was part of a sort of revolt that took place, but political stuff. But he was also a porcelain dealer. And I think if you're a porcelain dealer, you had to, I hope one of you got this, because it's sort of fun to, it reminds you that even porcelain dealers have lives outside of porcelain. And this is a great example of it. You don't see it very often. And the portrait on this plate comes from a very famous, it's taken from a very famous portrait that was done of him. I think it's the only portrait known of him. And here they've copied it onto porcelain. So somehow they got that image to China. You have to remember, somehow it has to get there. For the Chinese to put it on. So that in itself is an interesting story. It's a nice piece of ceramic. And I think this was I thought it was very rare, and apparently it is. All right, and then over to this nice looking Kangxi style vase that's closing in a couple of days. It ends on Saturday, tomorrow afternoon. Fairly good size vase. One of our inquiries had sent this in to me. He wanted a little specific information on the age of it. I told him it was late Qing to Republic. It's 17 inches tall, but very nicely decorated with these mythical beasts and immortals floating around on it. The subject matter on this is very attractive. So there you go. It's up to $765. It's got a little ways to go yet, but a nice example. Nice example. And then over to excuse me, maybe you can hear Buck in the background here. He's barking. A couple of you noticed in the video from yesterday at about the 7-minute mark, the one I did on foot rims, Buck got into the film, and you may want to go, if you haven't seen that video, you may want to go see it just for that. Our new dog, Buck, the puppy, came in behind me over here with a pair of my very best dress, very expensive shoes she found, and he was walking around the house with them. He managed to. I guess he didn't like me talking about him. He sort of stripped the laces out of him and stuff. It was a sort of a funny thing that he did. It cracked me up. And by the way, we got his those of you that were wondering, we were wondering what kind of a dog he is. We got his DNA test back. He's 51% Schnauzer and 48% German Shepherd and 2% Belgian Schnauzer, whatever that is. So he's a little bit of everything, but he's mostly German Shepherd, mostly Schnauzer. And he's an awfully good dog. We're so happy to have him. All right, now onto this nice pair of twin-handled Chinese Amari cups. And it's unusual to have twin-handled cups from this period, but they did do them on occasion for the foreign market. These are very finely done. Very, very nice. They're up to $115. They got 16 bids. They close Sunday. They're going to I think they'll probably double or go to $250 or $300. We'll see. And then over to this, there's a Peranican Nonya Straits covered bowl. It's up to $998. And as you know, Straits porcelain always does very well. There's a lot of people that love Straits stuff. It's very festive, brightly colored, and so forth, and has a very special niche in the Chinese porcelain market. And this is a nice one, 19th century. And who's selling this? NZ Guide. Is selling this over in Cambridge in the UK. He sells good things. He's got a good reputation. And then over to this. Now this is something I was kind of this Night Heron has this up from New Mexico. This is one of these Wu Shuang Pu jars that I talked about yesterday in the foot rim video, because they are making reproductions of these. This is not a reproduction. I want to be clear. This is an old one. It looks fine, 19th century, later 19th century, and so forth. But these have suddenly done very, very well in auctions, so they're starting to copy them. This is not a copy. I think there are two on this week on eBay that are not copies. There's the bottom of it. Foot rim looks absolutely fine, that sort of gritty, rolled-in foot iron spots and whatnot. And very, very nice. Oh, everybody's looking for the buckaroo. He's a little dog. He must have snuck out of the house. He's in the backyard. He's fine. He's inside a fenced yard. He's not going anywhere. So when you look at these going ahead, the point of this is just be very double check, triple check that it's not one of the reproductions, because the originals are very charming. It's about the Wu Shuangpu is the story of the 40 great Chinese figures from Chinese history going back to the Han Dynasty onward, and they pick out people and then they identify them on these pieces. So it's a real sort of interesting bit of cultural history on these things. All right, and that's about it. There was this that sold last week. I think this was a good buy. A Famille Rose, punch hole walled hat stand, $182. I don't know why it didn't bring more than that. It was absolutely 19th century. Somebody got a good buy. And then this is just a list of some of the stuff that'll be on the newsletter page this week. If you haven't subscribed to the newsletter yet, come over and do it. It's on bidamount.com. It's free. Click the weekly newsletter page at the top of the menu. Come down, sign up, and every Friday or anytime we do anything that we want you to know about, we'll send you a quick email. We do not rent the email list out. People always ask me, do you rent your list? No, we don't rent our list. Because I made a promise years ago we'd never ever do that, because I hate spam as much as the rest of you. And with a lot of people on that list now, and they're good collectors, and many of them belong to Patreon too, and whatnot. So it's our list. It's our list for us and our users. All right. Anyway, you can sign up for it just by clicking this button. It'll take you over to a simple form. There it is, and just put in your email address. You don't need to put your name in. Somebody said, do I have to put my name in? No, you don't have to. Doesn't make any difference. We just need your email so we can send you a note and say we've updated the newsletter page, or we released a new video that we think is timely, and so forth. And then, of course, the videos are down here every week. All right, so that's about it. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And in the meantime, enjoy your summer. And keep your eye out, though, for some bargains in the next few weeks, because there are some good sales going on. And I think a lot of people aren't paying much attention. And if you're collecting, it's a good time to build up some of your collection. All right. Have a great week, and thank you for watching. All right. Bye-bye.